The moment the pilot collapsed, the ordinary life of the passenger was irrevocably transformed. Up until that instant, she had been just another face in the cabin, a silent observer of her surroundings, going about a routine journey without any expectation of becoming the focal point of crisis. Her heroism was unexpected precisely because it emerged from someone who had no prior preparation for such extreme circumstances. This is the essence of unexpected heroism, the ability of an ordinary person to rise above fear and act decisively when confronted with extraordinary danger. In the narrative, the story emphasizes that heroism is not always premeditated or trained. It can manifest spontaneously when someone chooses to embrace responsibility and courage in the face of uncertainty. Her first actions were instinctive, driven by a blend of shock, survival instinct, and a sudden awareness of the stakes. While other passengers were frozen in fear, she scanned the cabin, assessed the situation, and immediately identified what needed to be done. It was not only her quick thinking, but her willingness to step into a leadership role that defined her heroism. In those crucial moments, she became the anchor for those around her, her calm presence contrasting with the panic that could have otherwise escalated uncontrollably. This type of heroism is powerful because it is both internal and external. It is the courage to act within oneself and the capacity to influence and reassure others simultaneously. The narrative also explores how unexpected heroism challenges traditional notions of who can be a hero. The protagonist does not wear a uniform, carry tools, or hold any official authority. She is, in every conventional sense, an ordinary person. Yet, when faced with life or death circumstances, she demonstrates extraordinary qualities: composure, decisiveness, and a capacity for empathy and leadership. The story shows that heroism is not a static attribute, but a dynamic response, revealed in the crucible of pressure and responsibility. It is the ability to rise to the occasion, to act with precision and courage, even when everything seems uncertain, that distinguishes an unexpected hero from the rest. Moreover, her emergence as a hero transforms the atmosphere of the cabin. Her confidence and decisive actions ripple outward, affecting the mindset and behavior of other passengers. They begin to look to her for guidance, taking cues from her calm and focused demeanor. This influence is a hallmark of true heroism, the ability to create order from chaos, to instill courage in others simply by the force of one's own composure and determination. The story emphasizes that heroism is not just about personal bravery, but about the ability to inspire and galvanize those around you in moments of crisis. Ultimately, the unexpected heroism of the passenger underscores a profound theme. Extraordinary acts can emerge from ordinary people when circumstances demand them. It reminds readers that courage is not reserved for the trained or the experienced. It can appear spontaneously in anyone who is willing to step forward and take responsibility. Her story becomes a testament to human resilience, showing that heroism often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The tension in the cabin escalated the instant the pilot collapsed, transforming what had been a routine flight into a high-stakes scenario of fear and uncertainty. Passengers who had been chatting quietly or reading magazines now sat frozen, staring at each other in disbelief. The hum of the engines no longer a comforting background, but a reminder of the fragile situation they were in. Panic threatened to take hold, and the psychological weight of the moment was palpable. High-stakes tension, in this context, is not just about the physical danger of an uncontrolled aircraft. It is about the emotional and mental strain that grips everyone simultaneously, creating an atmosphere where fear can multiply rapidly if not managed. In this environment, every second became critical. The protagonist, still processing the sudden collapse of the pilot, quickly recognized that the escalating panic among the passengers could be just as dangerous as the pilot's incapacitation itself. Her ability to stay composed amidst the rising tension was essential. The story emphasizes that high-stakes tension is magnified by uncertainty. No one knew what would happen next, how the aircraft might behave, or how long it would take for a solution to emerge. This type of tension heightens awareness, sharpening instincts, and forcing immediate decision-making. It is within this crucible that the protagonist's courage begins to stand out, not as a predetermined trait, but as a conscious choice to act despite fear. The narrative also shows that tension serves a dual purpose: it endangers and it illuminates. While fear threatens to paralyze, it also reveals character. Passengers' reactions varied widely. Some became paralyzed by dread. Others sought reassurance from those around them. In the center of this, the protagonist emerged as a stabilizing force, her decisiveness cutting through the haze of panic. She directed passengers with clear instructions, helping them focus on practical actions rather than succumbing to despair. In doing so, she not only managed the external situation, but also mitigated the internal chaos experienced by those around her. The story demonstrates that managing tension is as much about psychological leadership as it is about practical action. High-stakes tension also intensifies the stakes of every choice. In the cabin, minor errors could have catastrophic consequences, and the protagonist was acutely aware that hesitation or confusion could exacerbate the situation. This pressure forces characters to operate at the edge of their abilities, revealing resilience and resourcefulness they might not have known they possessed. The narrative uses this tension to explore themes of human adaptability and courage under duress, showing how extreme stress can catalyze personal growth and heroic action. Finally, the tension serves to draw the reader into the immediacy of the moment. By highlighting the fear, uncertainty, and urgency within the cabin, the story immerses the audience in the passenger's perspective, making the protagonist's bravery all the more compelling. High-stakes tension is not merely a backdrop, it is an active force that shapes decisions, reactions, and transformations. It ensures that every action taken is fraught with consequence and meaning, amplifying both the suspense and the emotional impact of the narrative. The protagonist's ability to navigate this intense environment becomes a defining aspect of her heroism, showing that courage is most remarkable when it emerges in the midst of fear. In the midst of the unfolding crisis, the themes of responsibility and fate became central to the narrative, weaving together the emotional and practical stakes of the situation. Until that moment, the protagonist had lived an ordinary life, one defined by routine and predictability. The collapse of the pilot shattered that normalcy instantly, thrusting her into a role that demanded immediate action and focus. Fate, in this sense, is portrayed not as a distant concept but as a tangible force, placing her at the center of a high-pressure scenario where her choices would determine the outcome for dozens of lives. The narrative emphasizes that such moments do not announce themselves. They arrive suddenly, demanding that an ordinary person rise to extraordinary responsibility. Responsibility in this context is multifaceted. It is both the practical responsibility of managing a critical emergency and the moral responsibility toward the safety and well-being of fellow passengers. From the moment she recognized the gravity of the situation, every decision the protagonist made carried immense weight. She had to assess risks quickly, prioritize tasks, and communicate instructions effectively, all while keeping her own fear under control. The story highlights that true responsibility under crisis is not passive. It requires active engagement, decisive thinking, and the willingness to act even when the stakes are terrifyingly high. The narrative also explores the interplay between fate and personal agency. While fate places the protagonist in an extraordinary situation, it is her choices that define the outcome. This duality underscores a central theme. Being thrust into a situation by circumstance does not make one a hero, but embracing that role with courage and clarity does. The story emphasizes that extraordinary moments often test ordinary people, and the willingness to confront responsibility head-on is what separates those who rise from those who falter. In this way, fate is not an external force dictating outcomes, but a catalyst revealing inner strength and character. The protagonist's sense of responsibility also extends beyond herself. She becomes acutely aware that her actions, or inactions, affect the lives of everyone on board. This awareness heightens the tension, but it also fuels her determination. Each instruction given, each calming word, and each calculated action reflects not only skill and instinct, but also a deep empathy for the people around her. The story portrays this as a defining characteristic of leadership under duress. Responsibility is inseparable from care and consideration for others, and heroism is amplified when it serves a collective purpose rather than an individual one. Finally, the narrative demonstrates that responsibility and fate are transformative forces. By stepping into the role demanded by circumstance, the protagonist evolves from a passive observer into an empowered figure capable of shaping outcomes. The story leaves a powerful message. Life can place anyone at the center of extraordinary events, and the courage to embrace responsibility can reveal strengths previously hidden. Through her actions, the protagonist embodies the idea that while fate may set the stage, it is responsibility, decisiveness, and moral courage that determine how the story unfolds, and in doing so, she becomes a symbol of human resilience and capability in the face of unpredictability. In a situation where every second counts, communication and coordination became the linchpins of survival. The moment the pilot collapsed, the cabin's atmosphere teetered on the edge of chaos, with passengers uncertain of what to do and fear threatening to spread like wildfire. It was in this critical juncture that the protagonist's ability to communicate clearly and coordinate effectively became vital. Her calm yet assertive voice cut through the panic, giving direction and structure to an environment that was otherwise spiraling into disorder. The story emphasizes that in moments of extreme pressure, communication is not merely about relaying information, it is about instilling confidence, maintaining focus, and guiding collective action under duress. Coordination went hand in hand with communication. The protagonist quickly assessed the situation, noting the capabilities and reactions of the passengers around her. She delegated tasks intuitively, instructing some to assist with basic responsibilities like calming others or securing loose items, while focusing herself on critical problem solving. By aligning everyone's actions toward a common goal, she was able to create order from chaos, turning a cabin full of frightened, disoriented passengers into a team working, however imperfectly, toward safety. This coordination not only increased the efficiency of the response, but also provided a psychological anchor, giving passengers a sense of purpose and agency in a situation that could have otherwise left them paralyzed. The effectiveness of her communication was amplified by her empathy and awareness of the emotional state of those around her. She recognized that fear could quickly overwhelm logic, so her instructions were measured, firm, and reassuring. She used both verbal cues and non-verbal gestures to guide passengers, combining authority with care. The story underscores that leadership in crisis is as much about managing emotions as it is about managing actions. By maintaining a composed presence, she stabilized the cabin, allowing others to follow her lead and respond rationally despite the fear that threatened to dominate the scene. The interplay of communication and coordination also highlighted the protagonist's growth under pressure. Initially, she may have doubted her own abilities, questioning whether she could manage the situation effectively. However, as she observed the positive effects of her guidance, the passengers responding, taking direction, and focusing on practical steps, her confidence solidified. This narrative thread illustrates a broader truth. Effective leadership often emerges in real time under crisis, shaped by immediate feedback, adaptability, and the capacity to read and respond to both people and circumstances. Finally, the story demonstrates that communication and coordination in emergencies are transformative forces. They not only prevent catastrophe, but also cultivate trust, unity, and collective resilience. The protagonist's ability to orchestrate actions, guide behavior, and reassure those around her turned a potentially chaotic and deadly scenario into a structured, purposeful response. Her heroism is not only defined by individual courage, but also by her skill in connecting with and directing others, showing that the power to lead, inspire, and coordinate effectively can become a decisive factor in survival and a defining element of extraordinary human capability. As the crisis in the cabin intensified, the protagonist's transformation became fully evident, marking the culmination of her journey from an ordinary passenger to a figure of courage and inspiration. Every choice she made, every instruction she gave, carried enormous weight, shaping not only the immediate safety of the passengers, but also the emotional tone of the environment. Her actions demonstrated that heroism is not solely about performing extraordinary feats, but also about the ability to influence and stabilize those around you in moments of extreme uncertainty. The narrative highlights that in the midst of chaos, a single person's decisiveness and composure can ripple outward, turning fear into coordinated action and panic into hope. Her presence alone began to shift the dynamic within the cabin. Passengers, previously paralyzed by anxiety, started to respond to her guidance, following her lead with a mixture of trust and relief. The story emphasizes that true heroism combines action with influence. It is not enough to make the right choices yourself. One must also inspire confidence and clarity in others, turning a group of strangers into a functioning unit capable of facing a life-threatening situation together. In this way, the protagonist's courage becomes both practical and symbolic, illustrating the power of human resilience when channeled through leadership. The narrative also explores the emotional depth of her heroism. Acting under intense pressure requires not only rational thinking and physical readiness, but also emotional intelligence. The ability to sense fear, anticipate reactions, and respond in ways that reassure and motivate. Her calm, measured approach to each problem, combined with empathy for those around her, allowed passengers to regain a sense of control and agency. This interplay between action and emotional guidance underscores a critical aspect of leadership in emergencies: the ability to stabilize both the situation and the people within it, ensuring that practical steps toward survival are matched by psychological support. Moreover, her heroism underscores the theme of personal transformation. The ordeal forced her to discover strengths and capabilities she may not have known she possessed. Facing a scenario where ordinary routines were no longer sufficient, she adapted, acted decisively, and assumed responsibility with clarity and courage. This transformation, from passive observer to empowered leader, illustrates a universal truth. Extraordinary circumstances often reveal hidden reserves of strength, and the capacity for heroism resides in anyone willing to rise to the occasion. Finally, the story portrays the lasting impact of her actions. Beyond averting immediate disaster, she left an impression of courage, resilience, and calm leadership on every passenger. Her heroism was not defined by glory or recognition, but by the tangible difference she made in a critical moment. The lives she helped protect, and the fear she alleviated through her presence. In doing so, the protagonist embodies the idea that ordinary people can perform extraordinary acts when circumstance demands, and that true heroism is as much about the courage to act as it is about the ability to inspire and guide others. Through her decisive, empathetic, and courageous response, she transformed an ordinary flight into a story of empowerment, resilience, and the enduring impact of human courage under pressure.